Hello and welcome back. More English, sin parar. El inglés en este canal no para. 24 hours a day of English. Sin parar, ¿cómo se dice? Non-N-O-N guión stop. Non-stop es como un vuelo sin escalas. A non-stop flight from Madrid to New York. A non-stop flight from Madrid to Singapore. Okay, non-stop. And in this channel, 24 hours a day, non-stop. So, if you don't learn English with us, probably you should forget about the language altogether, okay, because you won't learn it ever. But we're going to give you English hasta en la sopa en inglés. So you have no excuse not to learn. To be or not to be. El negativo del infinitivo es not más el infinitivo. To be or not to be, to learn or not to learn. Okay. To see or not to see, to touch or not to touch, to sit or not to sit, to teach or not to teach. That is the question. Yes, so you have no excuse not to learn because we are giving it to you en bandeja de plata, on a silver platter, como el grupo antiguo de Motown, Los Platter. Okay, on a silver platter. We're giving English on a silver platter. And it's your responsibility to take advantage of this opportunity, a golden opportunity, oportunidad de oro. Decimos en inglés, una oportunidad dorada. Okay, chapada en oro. Golden. Silence is golden, and this is a golden opportunity for you. Okay. No la desaproveches. Don't. Please don't miss this opportunity. Take advantage of this opportunity. Okay? It'll make me feel proud, sentir orgulloso de lo conseguido, because my objective is to make you learn English. My objective, of course, is for this TV station, this channel, este canal de inglés, to be successful, of course. I want to be successful. I don't want to fail in life. I want to succeed. And the only way for me to succeed is for you to watch this program and other programs on Aprende Inglés Tuve, and which means we have to give you quality. If we don't give you quality, you will get bored and you'll stop watching this program. Now, the English language, aprender inglés es aburridísimo, normally. So we need to dress the teaching of English, vestirlo, in such a way that you frankly enjoy it, that you really enjoy it. Say, oh, ¿cómo mola este canal? ¿Cómo molan estos profes? Okay, yeah, that's the objective. Now, today, too much, too many, not enough. Too much, too many, not enough. Yes. My problem. What do you think my problem is? Do you think my problem is I have too much money in the bank or not enough money in the bank? Well, between you and me, I don't have enough money in the bank, okay? I don't have too much money. I don't have enough money in the bank. I would like to have more, okay? Now, I'm not poor. I'm not going to die of hunger. I'm not going to die of hunger, morir de hambre. I'm not going to starve to death, que es la forma más corriente incluso. Se dice más lo segundo que lo primero, para morir de hambre. I'm not going to die of hunger. I'm not going to starve. Escrito starve, con V, E al final. To starve. I'm not going to starve to death, I think. I doubt it. That's not very common nowadays in the Western world or in the first world and second world. In the third world, in some countries, it could still be a possibility and a problem. But I'm not going to die of starvation. I'm not going to die of hunger. I'm not going to starve to death. But still, I would like to have a bit more money in the bank. Come on. If I had a lot of money in the bank, I would fly first class or business class every time. And I would stay in 5-star hotels. I would enjoy life. Because at my age, I really prefer the comforts, the creature comforts. Decimos en inglés los conforts de criatura, the creature comforts at my age. But I don't have enough money. So the question, do you have too much money or not enough money in your bank account? It's clear. And I think you probably agree in your particular case too, that you don't have enough money in your bank account, and I don't have enough money in my bank account. I really wonder. Realmente me pregunto, ¿quién diría que sí? Oh, my problem is I have too much money. I don't know what to do with all my money. Some people are so rich. Some people have so much money that they don't know what to do with it. I have met a few people like this. They're looking for opportunities to invest their money. Sometimes I hear people say, hay mucha liquidez, hay mucho dinero, buscando destino. I say, aquí estoy. All right, here I am. Buscar destinos. All right. And for me, it's strange that money is looking for a destination. Decimos destination, literalmente destinación. Vosotros es destino. Mañana voy a Barcelona en avión y mi destino es Barcelona. Tomorrow I'm flying to Barcelona and my destination is Barcelona. Okay? Now, in English we also have the word destiny, que es destino también. Pero es el destino como misino. Misino es enseñar inglés hasta que me muera. Okay, that's my destiny. Okay, my fate. Destiny es el destino, lo que te depara la vida, lo que se espera al final de tu vida o al final de tu trayecto. It's your destiny. All right? But destination is physical. Destino físico. Now, question again. Do you have too much money or not enough? Not enough money in your bank account. Probably you don't have enough. Question, are there too many trees or not enough trees in Spain? Are there too many trees or not enough trees in Spain? It's clear. There are not enough trees in Spain. There's simply not enough trees in Spain. Spain needs more trees. If Spain had more trees, the climate in Spain could be a bit more humid. Maybe it would rain more, okay? If there were, si hubiera más árboles, del verbo haber. If there were more trees in Spain, maybe the climate would be less dry. No se dice así. Es correctísimo en inglés decir the climate would be less dry. Es mucho más común decir the climate wouldn't be so dry. Wouldn't be so dry. But there aren't many trees. In certain areas there are. And in many areas there are a lot of pine trees, a lot of pines, pinos, pine trees. And many people say that pine trees are not autochthonous to Spain. They're imported. I don't know, but if pine trees were imported to Spain, they were imported several centuries ago because pines have been part of Spain for many, many years. And in Galicia, in the northwest, there are a lot of eucalyptus trees, which are definitely not autochthonous. Those trees were imported, maybe from Australia. And they imported eucalyptus trees, but they didn't import koalas, okay? So we have the eucalyptus, but we don't have the koalas. But, question, are there too many trees or not enough trees in Spain? Well, it's clear. There are not enough trees in Spain. I've heard different stories about Spain and the trees. Yeah. It's interesting stories. I've heard a story that I don't believe. No. I heard that in the times of Jesus Christ, 2,000 years ago, at the beginning of the common era, la era común, I heard that a squirrel could cross from Finisterre to Cabo de Gata in Almería, Finisterre in Galicia, could cross without touching the ground. Have you heard that story? That a squirrel, what's a squirrel? Squirrel. There aren't many squirrels in Spain. There aren't many. Many of the squirrels died in the first part of this century. They were eaten by people who needed food because many of the people were starving to death. They were dying of hunger, and they killed everything that moved for food, and so most of the squirrels in Spain were killed during those years, in the late 30s and during the 40s. Ardillas. Now, the story I know, which I don't believe, is that a squirrel could start in Finisterre and cross to Cabo de Gata, diagonally crossing the Iberian Peninsula, without touching the ground, because there were so many trees 2,000 years ago. Maybe it's true, but I have my doubts. Mis dudas. Y fijaos, la B de dudas es muda. I have my doubts, all right? Change. Okay, I have my doubts. Now, why, if it's true, what happened to the trees? What happened to the trees? I have heard two theories, and I don't believe either one. Fijaos cómo lo he dicho. He oído dos teorías y no creo ni la una ni la otra. I have heard, contracción, I've heard two theories, ceceo, th en inglés, neither of which I believe, o, eso es después de una coma. I have heard two theories, comma, neither of which I believe, or I have heard two theories, punto, period, and I don't believe either one. Theory number one, that when the Moors crossed the Strait of Gibraltar, you remember Don Julián, el conde Don Julián, who betrayed, traicionó a España, trayendo a los moros. He betrayed Spain, Visigothic Spain, not Christian, well, Christian Spain, yes, but Visigothic Spain, the Visigoths, you remember, Reyes Godos, etc., were here in Spain, and Conde Don Julián invited the Moors to cross the Strait of Gibraltar. And the Moors crossed and invaded Spain. And a question of about 7 years, they covered all of Spain and part of France up to Tours. And in Tours, in France, not too far from Paris, they were defeated by Charles Martel. Charles Martel, who was the grandfather of Carlomagno. Charlemagne. And the grandfather stopped them and pushed them back to the Iberian Peninsula. So the Moors occupied all of Spain except Asturias. You remember? Okay, Asturias was the only area, a small area of Spain that remained Christian. And that was the start, the embryonic moment of the beginning of the Christian reconquest of Spain. Now, when the Moors were living and settled for many hundreds of years, in some areas for 200 years, other areas 300 years, other areas 400, 500, even 700 years in Granada, I heard that the Moors didn't like forests and that they cut down, talaban muchos árboles, they cut down a lot of trees. I don't believe it. I really don't believe it, okay? But I've heard that, and I think it's simply a tall tale, un cuento chino. Decimos un cuento largo, tall, tale, escrito tale. Como cuento de hadas es fairy tale. Un cuento, un relato, una historia es a story. But a tale is normally más antiguo o de tipo cuento de hadas, and a fairy tale. Now, a tall tale is un cuento que no crees, normalmente, anda, que no. But I've heard that the Moors cut down the trees. That's one theory. The other theory, which I don't believe either, is that Philip II cut down many of the forests in Spain to build the Spanish Armada, la Armada Invencible, the invincible, como en español, invincible Armada that Philip II built and sent against England and Queen Elizabeth I of England, and which he lost. He lost most of the fleet. Fleet escrito. Fleet is la flota. And so I heard that most of the forests in Spain were cut down. To cut is cortar, but to cut down is talar, or cortar árboles enteros, bam, with axes, use an axe. Now you can use a chainsaw. Okay, a chainsaw. You call it, I think you call it a sierra mecánica or eléctrica. We call it a chain, de cadena, a chainsaw. And cutting down trees. And I heard that Philip II was guilty. It was his fault. But I don't believe that story either. I think simply that farmers needed land. And at certain periods of Spanish history in which people needed food, really people were starving to death, or people were on the margin between sustenance, living, getting by, saliendo del paso, to get by, getting by barely, por los pelos, that they cut down trees to plant. And they used every square meter of land in this country to plant, even poor land, that land that was not rich for farming. They extracted everything. They squeezed. Recordaréis de otra clase, de exprimir una naranja, to squeeze an orange, to squeeze a lemon, and to squeeze every nutrient producto nutritivo, from the earth in this country during periods that were difficult for the people. Because Spain is a hard country. The orografía, the topography, and the climatology in most of Spain is not easy. The people who have lived in Old Castile and in New Castile, it's a tough life. But not only today, but going back 3,000 years, it was tough. It was really, really hard in this country because of the climate. And so it's natural that they cut down trees to plant everything possible. So the question is, are there, vaya tangente, are there too many trees or not enough trees in Spain? Well, clearly there are not enough. Spain needs more. Question, another one. Are you ready? You ready? Okay. Is there? Mira, he saltado de are there, ahora es is there. Y no voy a decir too many aquí, voy a decir too much porque es incontable o singular. Is there too much pollution or not enough pollution in Spain? Clearly there's too much. I've never heard anybody in my life say, in this country there isn't enough pollution. This country needs more pollution. Por cierto, no decimos en inglés contamination. Aquí se dice mucho la contaminación. But contamination in English es puntual. Por un derrame de algo, pues se contamina un río en un sitio puntual. That's contamination. You can say, for example, las marismas, how do you say, in the south of Spain, Doñana, there was contaminated by an industrial problem, okay? But in general, we say pollution, water pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, okay? Noise pollution. Now, question, is there too much pollution or not enough pollution in Spain? Too much. There's too much pollution in Spain, but there's less than there used to be. I'm convinced that there's less pollution, at least visible pollution. There's less pollution than there used to be. Visible pollution. I remember many years ago, many years ago, maybe my second or third year in Spain, I taught English in a company outside of Madrid, I think in the area of Pozuelo Majadahonda. And it was on a hill. And I remember after the class with the students to say goodbye, we walked out of the building. And from the building, you could see Madrid in the distance. And this was higher. And Madrid was often, very often, covered with a cloud of pollution. Now I don't see that happening so often. But, but be careful. Sometimes the worst pollution you can't see, okay? Lead pollution. I remember many years ago, there was the police created a special unit called La Patrulla Verde, and the Green Patrol, okay? And the Green Patrol's job was to find cars or trucks. Los británicos suelen, cada vez menos, pero siguen diciendo mucho lorry para un camión. Looking for cars or lorries or trucks that were polluting the atmosphere more than usual, and the Green Patrol stopped them. But really it was incorrect because the dark smoke coming out of a car is not necessarily more dangerous than the invisible fumes. Digo fumes, que son el humo que no ves, fumes that come out of a normal exhaust pipe to escape. And so the worst pollution is invisible. Okay, the worst pollution is invisible. So, I don't know if there's more pollution now than there used to be, or that there used to be more pollution than there is now. Probably it's about the same, but I remember when I was younger, many years ago, it was more noticeable, or at least more visible pollution. I remember one time in Madrid, standing next to the Puerta de Alcalá, okay, and looking down to Cibeles and across to where Gran Via and Alcalá split, to that famous building of Metropolitana there, and it was difficult to see it. There was so much pollution that afternoon. And I haven't experienced that in a long time. No he experimentado eso desde hace muchísimo tiempo. Escuchad, I haven't experienced, no digo que experimented. En español sí lo decís, no he experimentado esa sensación desde hace años. Pero en inglés, to experiment is con tubos de ensayo en un laboratorio con bata blanca, okay, with a white robe and test tubes. You experiment, experimentations, and you reach conclusions. Pero experimentar la vida en carne propia es to experience, usando la palabra experiencia y convirtiéndola en verbo, to experience. Y en este caso, uso experience. I haven't experienced that feeling, that sensation, or that type of perception or sensation in years, okay? All right, let's continue, shall we? We have 5 minutes left. Okay, question. Are there too many cars or not enough cars in Spain? Well, I'm sure your answer will be there are too many cars in Spain. My answer is there aren't enough cars in Spain. Okay, why? Well, because I have a business, and for my business to prosper, it's very convenient that the economy be booming. I prefer to have a booming economy than an economy in recession. I don't like recessions because when recessions happen, people don't spend money. And people need to tighten their belt. Apretar el cinturón, to tighten their belt. So they don't go to the restaurants as often, they don't go to hotels, and they don't spend money on education, extra money. They only spend the essential money on education. And for me, it's interesting. Why? You know, so I think a lot of families, a lot of parents, mothers and fathers prefer to continue with their gambas a la plancha and to save money on education for their children. I get that impression sometimes. When the recession starts, and the recession starts to get deep, poco de vacas flacas, it's incredible how the parents stop spending money on their extra education activities for their children. So, the question is, going back to those coches, in your opinion, are there too many cars or not enough cars? Well, in my opinion, there aren't enough cars. Because cuanto más coches hay, mejor suele ir, o es ya señal de que va bien la economía. The more cars there are, the more signs that the economy is booming and people spend money on education and they need to learn English. And so I make a good living. Me gano la vida bien when the people are spending money. But in the recession, no. Because when it's recession, I'm one of the first to be hit by the recession. So, are there too many cars or not enough cars? For me, there are not enough. But in realistic terms and from an absolute point of view, there are too many cars in this country. Too many. It's incredible. The noise, the pollution, the traffic congestion, it's incredible. Too many cars. What do you think? Are there too many cars or not enough cars? Question. Are there too many politicians or not enough politicians? Do you want to know my honest opinion? Se dice mi opinión honesta, mi sincera, mi opinión más sincera. There are too many politicians in this country and in every country, you see. To make decisions, you see, do we need, I don't know how many, do we need 300 or 400 politicians sitting in the parliament, in the Congreso de Diputados, and then another, I don't know how many, 100 sitting in the Senate to make policy decisions? Okay. I have my doubts. In the United States, in the Senate, there are 100 senators, 2 from each state. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. In the House of Representatives, the representation is proportional to the population in each state. And in the House of Representatives, Cámara de Representantes, the House of Representatives, there are about 400. So between the Senate and the House of Representatives, there are 500 politicians making or drawing up and debating and passing legislation for the country. Do we need 500 people doing it? Maybe. That's an interesting question we can talk about another day because it's time to say goodbye. Oh, parting, lo decía Romeo a Juliet. Parting is such sweet sorrow. El separarse es una pena tan dulce. But todas las buenas cosas, all good things must come to an end, and this program is over. So, colorín colorado, this English class has acabado. So, see you again very soon, and don't forget, study hard as much as you can. Bye-bye.